What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream. And wow, we kick off year 5 this year, and it is an exciting one to start. I think we finally have everything in place we need to be World Series contenders and maybe even bring home the championship this year. So we made some pretty impressive moves in the offseason, some wheeling and dealing. But at the same time, man, we had to be very, very careful with our budget. It took me a long time to do the offseason again for this offseason because I wasn't trying to decide necessarily what players to go after. I was trying to figure out how do I go after everybody that I want to go after and make the budget work. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to, we'll talk about the guy there first in a second, but we're going to take you through some of the signings we made. We only signed one name in free agency, really, and that was Alex Reyes. He was sitting out there in free agency. I was like, you know what? I'd love one more dominant back-end bullpen type guy in my bullpen, and Alex Reyes is that. You see the hits and K per 9 numbers are just off the charts over there. Home run per 9 numbers also very solid. Walk numbers obviously concerning, but we can work with that. So he's had kind of a spotty playing time in this franchise. I think he was injured when we first started the franchise, so he didn't play because the computer didn't add him to the 40-man roster. I don't know why he didn't play in 24, so that was kind of weird. And his performances haven't been great, but if you look at his FIP and component ERA from last year, he was outstanding. I really love the numbers. Even the home runs per 9 could be better. He should be better with some of those ratings. So I'm excited for Alex Reyes. He is going to be in our closer's role. And that's going to move some other guys around. So I'll show you the bullpens and the rotations and the lineups when we are all said and done here. Other than that, we really didn't attack free agency that hard. We did sign a couple of guys. You see, we signed Adonis Medina, who we're trying to pass through waivers right now because he's out of options. He's been okay in this franchise. I mean, the last 2 seasons you see what the FIP and the component ERA are, not so great. He was this close to making the opening day roster because he had an awesome spring training. I just couldn't quite justify playing him in the starting rotation or the bullpen spot when I got some really good arms ahead of him. So, but he's a guy, if one of these guys struggles, he'll get called up pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, he will be in consideration for rotation or bullpen spot if somebody struggles or gets hurt. And then the other 2 guys we signed were just some hitting depth. So we picked up Max Schrock, who also is out of options. We're trying to pass him through waivers. I needed a guy with a little bit of defensive versatility, which Schrock has. He's not a great defensive player, but that's okay. I wanted a left-handed bat because right now, really the only lefty I have coming off the bench is Nick Gordon. So if he gets hurt or say somebody else gets hurt and Gordon has to be in an everyday role, something like that, I don't really have anybody behind him that I like for lefty depth. So I needed somebody behind him there. And I also picked up John Birdie. He's not on the 40-man roster right now. I probably will get him on the 40-man roster later in the season because he'll probably be a guy we want to keep on the roster for the playoffs just because of that speed. We'll see who the odd man out is in the playoffs for our bench because, I mean, I really like that speed. His bat's not going to do anything for us, but I really wanted him because 91 speed and got that stealing and base running aggressiveness. And that was the extent of what we did in free agency. I mean, I literally didn't sign anybody else except just people to fill out our roster. So I didn't have a ton of money left over. I mean, I did have money going in, but I'll show you how I spent some of it. So let's go over and take a look at Pete Alonso. So this guy was somebody I was looking at last offseason as possibly signing a free agency, but I was happy with Juan Yepez and Michael Busch. After last season, Michael Busch, I'm still happy with. Juan Yepez, I would have liked in like a bench role, but I thought, you know what, if I could get an upgrade on him, I'm going to go for it. So I traded to the Mets. I got Pete Alonso and I got a right fielder, Carlos Rincon, who's not here anymore. I actually flipped him for some other players to kind of balance on my roster. But Pete Alonso and Carlos Rincon I got from the Mets, and I sent them. Well, let's jump over to the Mets real quick. I'll show you who I sent them. So, of course, I started with Juan Yepez because, they're going to need a first baseman to step in, and he's a long-term option. So this is a good little piece for them. Defensive versatility, a lot of service time left. So I started with Juan Yepez. I also sent them Kevin Alcantara because they needed some long-term options in the outfield, and Kevin Alcantara is a pretty good one. I was sad to see Alcantara go, but I got some other guys around, and to get me somebody like Pete Alonso, I was okay with that. And then I also sent them Carlos Hernandez, being in the last year of our contract. I kind of wanted to keep Carlos Hernandez around, but I like the idea of clearing the $4 million out in terms of cap because I kind of needed that money a little bit. Plus, I mean, the Mets could use it more. I have a lot of bullpen options too, so I wanted to kind of like divest a little bit in that. And I also sent them Chase Silseth, which is another guy that I kind of liked in the bullpen. But again, there's a lot of guys stacked up there. I didn't want to block some of my higher upside players like Abner Uribe. And then the final guy I sent them is actually a guy I acquired from the Marlins in order to get this trade done, and it was Dax Fulton. So the Mets really need some starting pitching depth and some good starting pitchers. The Marlins don't. And so I was able to send the Marlins Kyle Manzardo, who, if you remember at the end of last season, I was talking about possibly trading him because I just don't have a spot for him in the majors, and he's pretty good. So I'd rather try to get him, capitalize on some of his value. And I also sent them Luis Frias, who had been a pretty good reliever for us in our bullpen until this past season. He kind of fell back a little bit. So, I mean, the Marlins are happy because now they get a back-end bullpen guy for them there. You see, I don't know what happened. The first 2 seasons he was good. Last year, I got a little bit worried, maybe a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction trading him. But when you look at our bullpen right now, I got guys like Yohan Ramirez, Kyle Nicholas, Bryce Bonnin, all guys that I wanted to make sure I kept in the majors because of their upsides. And also Abner Uribe. I hadn't been able to really get Abner Uribe in the majors consistently since we started this franchise. And I think actually Uribe is out of options, so I wouldn't have been able to send him down anyway. So I needed to make sure I had a spot for Uribe. I love his potential and his upside. He actually had a great spring training and he was on fire. So I'm excited to have him in our bullpen finally. So that is how we ended up with Pete Alonso. I'm very happy what he does for our lineup. I mean, I'm going to show you our lineup before we get out of here. It's scary. Okay, and then actually I want to show you a couple of extensions I did. I extended Grayson Rodriguez. So one of the reasons I needed to clear out money is I needed a lot of money to sign Grayson Rodriguez. So I signed him to a 7-year, $172.2 million contract. That comes out to $24 million per year. I was originally going to keep that flat, and so I'd pay more money in like 27 through 29. But get cheap on the back end is what I would get, because his projected salary when he's a full-blown free agent is going to be $35 million because he's that 95 potential. I was trying to find ways so I could keep him long-term but save myself some money on the back end. But when I looked at that, if I just did a balanced, like straight across normal payout structure, my money for 2027 was just, I was already up against the cap. So I decided to backload it, and I get to keep him at relatively decent cost. And still, even at his max pay, the $32.8 million in 2033, he still would probably be making like $34-35 million at that point. So I can't be complaining. I'm going to get a nice discount on him starting in, I'm trying to figure this out. So 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. So 2029 is when I start getting a discount on him. So he'll be about $13 million per year in 2029, $10 million in 2030, $8 million in 2031. That's the money. Those are some real players I can bring in with that extra cash that I'm saving. So I'm pretty happy with that extension. The other guy I extended was Alejandro Kirk. I wasn't expecting to extend him when I traded for him, but he had such a good year last year. I'm like, I can't let this guy walk. He's only 27 years old. So I extended him with a 6-year, $106.7 million contract. That is a $16.9 million per year average annual value. Now for him, we're getting a pretty good value for the first few seasons. Right around 2030 is when he's going to be making roughly what he should be making in free agency. And then 2031 and 2032, we're going to be maybe overpaying a little bit, but we get to save a lot of money on the front half, which I like. And yeah, we're going to need to save the money because let me take you down to our budget. So I looked at it, it's about 145 million is about roughly my max. Somewhere between there and 150 is my max where I can offer for salaries. And you see, I'm already at 134 in 2027. That's not counting any of the guys I have to re-sign for renewable contracts or for arbitration. And there's some good guys that are going to be on that list that I'm going to need to sign. So we may have to be parting ways with guys like Santiago Espinal. I might trade Reyes after 1 year. Willie Adames we might trade. Aaron Bummer, Ian Happ. These are all guys who might end up being on the block after this season. So we really got to go for it this year. And then we're going to have to do, I wouldn't say rebuilding because like we still got a lot of parts in place, but we're definitely going to need to be very smart with our money in the next couple seasons. 27 and 28, there might be some money crunch decisions I need to make, but I'm prepared for it. I'm happy with some of the guys I've been able to keep long term. So, and I think we can be one of the best teams in the majors this season. As you can see, we are ranked 5th in baseball. I think we're maybe a little bit underrated. I mean, our contact and power are top 10. Our pitching is 11th, but we definitely have upside because a couple guys in our rotation who definitely have high potential, so they'll grow as the season goes on. We'll definitely be in the top 10. And we're 20th in defense, but honestly, I don't think our defense is that bad. So let's go check out our lineups right now. This is our lineup, and it's the same against lefties as it is against righties, and this is just nasty. I remember a couple years ago when we had nobody who could take walks. Just check out the disciplines on these guys. I mean, outside of Jarren Duran, all these guys have disciplines over 60. And then Jarren Duran is in. That's the one difference between lefties and righties is that Elliot Ramos is going to be playing against lefties, and he has a discipline of 73. So, yeah, this is a very scary lineup. Our worst overall is Gunnar Henderson, who was like a boss last season. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. Switching over to our pitching rotation, I did name Grayson Rodriguez as our ace because he was an ace last year. I mean, 3.71 ERA, but a 3.27 FIP and a 3.26 component ERA. Trevor Rogers was great as well, but I mean, Grayson Rodriguez is ready to take over and be the stud of this staff. Asa Lacy is another guy who had a very impressive season last year. Bobby Miller, I hope we get second half Bobby Miller from last year instead of first half Bobby Miller because his first half of the season wasn't outstanding, but he did come on strong late. And then Brian Bello won that 5th starting role out of spring training. I've always liked Bello. He hasn't quite put it together in the starting rotation in 2024 and 2025. However, he did pitch really well in the minor leagues last year for the little bit of time he was down there. He pitched really well out of bullpen. I mean, his ERA was over 8 when we sent him down originally after those first 7 starts. And for him to get that down under 5 was impressive. I think his FIP and his FIP was down near 4 too. So if he can just keep those home runs in check, and he can keep those hits in check, I think he can really achieve that high upside. And then we have Alexander Vizcaino in that long relief role. I was very impressed with actually his numbers. I didn't realize when I sent him down last year, but his FIP was really good last year. Component area wasn't great, but his FIP was good. He's going to have to keep those walks in check. He was very good at AAA last year, so excited to have him in that long relief role. Bryce Bonnin, he's got beat potential, so that's nice there. Yohan Ramirez has moved out of the closer's role. He's been demoted by it's just because of the state of our roster. I mean, this is a guy I love having in our first middle relief role spot. Kyle Nicholas, Abner Uribe is finally breaking camp in the majors. Very excited to see those 86 hits per 9, the 99 Ks per 9 pay off there. Keegan Aiken, he had a good season last year and a good 2024 as well. So excited to see him continue to be a strong asset in our bullpen. Aaron Bummer in our setup role and Alex Reyes in the closing pitching role. So that's pretty much it. Do I want to show you guys anything down here? No, there's not too much to talk about at the minor league levels. You see a couple of the lineups in there and then some of the bullpens options and rotation options there. So anyways, that's all I got to go over. I think the next episode, I might do a full gameplay for the opening day this season. For one, I don't really want to spend the time editing it, but two, I think, this is the year like I'm most excited to start because I think we really are like definitely World Series contenders, possibly even World Series favorites this year. So I kind of want to have like a full gameplay to kick off this season. So anyways, in the meantime, between time, I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm gone. Deuces.